access, you have to see that it's like the product journey. Starts when the product journey starts and ends when the product ends.
What I hear a lot is people don't start early enough. And I guess it begs the question as to what is early and when is too early and why do people not start early enough?
Of course, it can include different functions depending on the company, how it's structured.
Welcome to BioPharma Unscripted with Marcus Metcalf, bringing you real conversations with the leaders, innovators and challengers transforming biotech and pharma today.
Ana, welcome. Thank you very much for agreeing to join me on the Market Access podcast discussion. How are you today?
Thank you, Marcus. I'm very well, thank you. Yes,
Good.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I thought we'd go straight in with, because we already know each other a little bit and we've met a few times over the years. So just to give people a sense of how that's come about. I know we've been in touch as a candidate when we've sort of looked at things together. And also I know I've been pestering you as a sort of potential client as well. I think when you're at Santen. So we've known each other on both sides, but I know we met at I think it was ISPOR the previous year, and we had a really cool discussion around. I think you were just leaving Santen, around maybe going in as an interim, just what you were doing with your career. So, could you just introduce yourself for the audience, and just so we know a little bit more about you before we start into our discussion?
Sure. So, hi to everyone. I'm Ana Felipe. I'm a pharmacist by training. I'm from Portugal, but I left a long time ago, and I decided to go into the industry because initially I wanted to be a doctor to see patients. So I would like to make an impact on the life of the people, but I couldn't see blood. So I think I would feel worse than the patients. So I said, okay.
Yeah.
If I cannot help them like that, I can help in a different way. So I decided to join the industry and help the medicine to reach them. Of course, things have evolved, and in the beginning was regulatory. We get the approval. I was also a regulatory person, and the medicine was there available. Nowadays, due to the budget constraints, there is this access. So it's not just the approval from the authorities, from the regulator authorities, but there is the next step. Yep. So the next barrier is the access. So we really need to be well prepared in order to make sure the product reach the market and reach the right patient.
Yeah.
And like that, I can make a positive impact, hopefully, in the life of a patient.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've touched on this keyword access, which is what joins us both. I mean, you're the expert. I'm sort of on the periphery to a certain degree. It's such a. I mean, my world is health economics there, so I'm used to it, and it's become more and more important. I think there's a lot of definitions as to what it is. Perhaps we can just get an idea of your perception of market access, because as we were touching on before the call, it is a function, but it's also got many heads. And the reason that I wanted to talk to you is because you've got a very broad, you've worked at affiliate level, and you've also worked above country. And as you say, you've also worked in other functional areas as well. So you've got this really wonderful holistic view of it. So what does market access mean for you, I guess, just in terms of an actual thing?
So for me, access is a process.
Okay.
Of course, it can include different functions depending on the company, how it's structured.
Yeah.
But it's a process where we, from the early beginning, when the product is being developed, we start thinking, how is this product going to be launched? At what price? And who it will serve? So what are our population? Is there a comparator? So with which comparator or standard of care, or who is going to be there when we launch that we need to show that we are better or equal to? What is the story? So the question is, what do we bring? What does this product brings? And this is a process that we need to start very early to build data, to understand what the clinical trial is telling us in order to be ready for the launch, in order to be ready to prepare these gigantic dossiers, reimbursement dossiers, and also understand how we are going to negotiate the price with the different authorities, Europe, US, international markets like Canada, China, Japan, etc.
Okay. So you touched on, there was an important word there that you said, which was the word early. I hear this a lot, and it seems to be, what I hear a lot is people don't start early enough. And I guess it begs the question as to what is early and when is too early, and why do people not start early enough? Because I guess I'm just thinking, back at the earlier stages of drug development, when this product's coming through, it's very difficult sometimes to see a clear end goal or just how it's going to look. So I'm just thinking, why is it that people do not start early enough? And then also thinking about the other parts that make up market access that you'll be working with, health economics, with regulatory, and where those other functions fit in as well. It's not straightforward. So why do companies not start early enough? What are some of the reasons that you have experienced?
I think it's mainly because some are still used to, we need to get right for regulatory. So we need to have the right endpoints, to have the FDA approval, to have EMA approval, the Japanese regulatory and Chinese approval.
Okay.
So everything, the efforts and the investment is done for that. Nowadays, we are saying, will not be enough. So we really need to consider potential different endpoints, or seeing the endpoints that we are collecting differently in order to gain the access. And this is not done just by the access team. This is a cross-functional exercise. So regulatory is involved, clinical is involved, stats is involved, medical affairs is involved, commercial is involved. So everyone is involved in this process.
Yeah.
And it starts, you mentioned when, it starts very early. So when we have, even before like phase 1, when very early, that we are all thinking, are we going ahead with this? What's this that we have in our hands? Access can also work there. When I say access, could be HOR, health economics outcomes research.
Okay. So for the context of this, we are grouping them together as we know that they're sort of one half of the same coin.
Yes, even pricing and access. So what we are going to ask is, again, what is our population? The population might be a big population, let's say, for the regulatories. So I want to have approval for this population. When we go to access, we might need to adjust and really to be precise what is the population we want to reach.
Okay.
The same is the unmet need. We need to understand or try to see many years far from launch, what are the unmet needs current, how things are evolving, and what are the unmet needs that we are going to be able to cover with our product. That is also very important. And to understand the disease, the treatment patterns.
Yeah. Okay.
And this starts very early. Collecting data, collecting real-world data that will be real-world evidence, because as a meaningful, it needs to be meaningful in order to provide us insights that help us as well with the development of the clinical trial, with the study, and later on to building the story that we need to build, the value story. Maybe you heard about it. So what is the value story? What is the value that you bring?
I mean, I understand, but just maybe for people watching this, what is the definition of a value story?
So I don't think there is a really definition, but it's to be able to tell the other what is the clinical, the safety, the humanistic, the economic added value of our product compared to what already exists.
Yeah.
Could be another product or could be standard of care. Imagine there is no drug for a certain condition or disease. So we come back and say, well, we have this product that showed to be efficacious, or efficacy is X, safety profile is good. Then we have to elaborate more, of course. Humanistic, the patients say they suffer a lot from migraine, and it's an example. And this product they see that they feel that there is an improvement in the migraine, or they don't have it.
Yeah.
Economically, we can say the standard of care costs Y,
Yeah.
and our product with everything costs Z, but there is some costs that are offset, so it's worth it for the payers to pay for this medicine.
Okay. And therefore providing a robust data package so that everybody who's involved in this drug getting to the market understands their bit, from a payer point of view.
Everything that we say needs to be scientifically proven.
Evidence-based. We're in that game.
Everything evidence-based.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you're saying it needs to be started early. So what, this question I just asked before, so often it comes up, but people don't start early. So why?
Could be they don't see the need.
Yeah.
Could be that they don't see the whole picture, because we have a lot of regions. If we are doing developing a product, it's not just for one particular country, it's for several countries. And countries have different needs, different requirements, and maybe because they are not aware of such requirements, they might be focusing on, let's say the US, that you can compare with placebo, and they go and it's okay. Maybe for other countries wouldn't be accepted.
Yeah.
But this is the country that is the priority, the country that they focus in the beginning. So could it be a reason? Or could be a reason that they say we want to compare with placebo and we don't want to compare with the active comparator. It's a decision. Of course, all this brings some challenges.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe the end result is not what was expected, because early considerations were not taken into account.
Yeah.
Or were decided to go this way. So we have to work with the data that we have.
Yeah. Okay. Is that thinking? I mean, obviously the JCA has is kind of the big topic at the moment in Europe, with a view to streamlining, rather than have all these individual processes. So is that to try and will that help? Do you think, in terms of coordinating more? Companies trying to coordinate more for early access? The
JCA is just for Europe.
Yes, I understand that. Yep.
Yes. So hopefully we have to see. It just started. On Sunday. It just started. So
I mean, everyone's talking about it. This isn't a discussion about JCA, but it's just when you're talking about the coordination of the separate countries, that seemed relevant.
Yeah, I think what will happen is, because we have to go through it.
Yeah.
It's mandatory. So the companies have to be in alert. Like, if my drug is going through GCA, we will have to do some very early work.
Yeah.
So maybe the teams and so on will be more aware.
Yeah.
Oh, we really need to do. We cannot, let's say, escape. We have really to go through it, and we have to have it right.
Yeah.
In order to get the assessment by this group.
Okay.
So I think for a certain way will help.
Yeah. Okay. And just thinking about your career, so thinking about early access, when it's gone right, when it's gone wrong, where have you got any particular examples where it's worked well? I'm just thinking about if there are, we've both talked about before, a lot of the companies that we've got experience of or working with, they might be, maybe they're smaller, that they haven't got tons and tons of resources coming through. So I'm trying to think about considerations that these companies should have. But what has been your experience there? Have you got any particular examples where it's worked particularly well by doing it early?
Yes. So in the past, when I worked at Astellas, I think the team I work with, they were aware that the HOR access team should be part of the teams.
Okay.
And they would listen to us, what is needed. So it was really team discussion, and they are open to for us to review the protocols of the trials. For instance, we need to justify why we need. Of course, we need to do work. It's not just because we want. There is all a reason why we would like to collect an endpoint, and then we need to assess the feasibility and the practicality as well. But yes, I think more and more people are aware of this need.
Yeah.
And where I think things still need to improve is the very small companies that would hugely benefit from someone that could look at their product and give a initial assessment how the access would look like, what is needed. That I think is still missing.
Yeah.
Because maybe they say, okay, we want this to succeed, phase 1, phase 2, and then maybe we sell, maybe we do it ourselves, and we have time.
Yeah.
It's like still that feeling that we have time.
Really?
I guess so, because they are small. They also don't have a lot to, maybe so many resources, so many capital to invest. But if they would also include not just the scientists and the stats. If they include someone.
I was going to ask, because I guess a lot of these early stage biotechs, they're made up maybe more of scientists, R&D people. There's no one commercial yet. So they kind of don't know what they don't know. They know they've got something hopefully game-changing or at least valuable to patients. But you're saying, from your perception, a lot of it is they just think they've got lots of time.
Well, I think so. I think, yes.
That's what we want, your opinion. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I think so.
So what, if you're an early stage biotech, I'm just thinking about, if you're in that position today, there's lots of them out there. Obviously, we haven't got a crystal ball as to who's going to make it yet. There's obviously quite a high attrition rate. But what if you were in their position, what advice would you give them if they're sitting here thinking we've got lots of time? Because I can imagine it's probably quite overwhelming when you're, I guess if you haven't done it before, or you're with, you've just kind of got this, we know we've got to do stuff, but where do we start sort of position? I mean, that's often where I do a lot of my work with the interims and consultants is sometimes you need a bit of a shepherd that you can trust. But if you don't know what you don't know, it's hard. So what advice would you give them if they're sat there now, they think they've got enough time? Are there some practical things they could do to start to, garner that information and sort of, I guess, maybe feel a little bit of the pain that if you don't do this, this is how it plays out?
Yes, I think those small companies, they would benefit to have someone that could explain them what is the access. So
the
basics. Explain them what is the access.
Yeah.
What is it? What will happen if you don't have it? What are the consequences? And then give them a bit of background of what they are doing. In terms of the product, what they want to achieve. So that person that has market access, HOR expertise could look at it and could give them an assessment saying, okay, I'll do a gap analysis and assess what they have and tell, look, in order to succeed, either you do it yourself until the end or you sell. It's important that you have to consider these and these and these and these. So to consider the endpoints, to consider what you're collecting, to consider what is the treatment in the countries that you think are key countries where you launch, the disease, the unmet need, certain things that are critical in the beginning to start thinking about. In order to, even if you have to sell it, to be able to convince the other company that is interested. Yes, I have done my homework. I have done this. This might not be finished. But
well, that's it. I mean, I guess, if you're, there's going to be some investment involved, in this proposition. And, from the investors side of things, they're going to want to see that, what due diligence has been done in terms of how this plays. As you say, you may not know if you're going to sell yet or build or whatever it's going to be. But in order to keep moving forward and keep the funding there and keep making sure, you have to have that evidence in place. So, so they should reach out. But I guess I'm thinking, if I'm in their position, they haven't maybe done it before. How do you find the right partner? Because I guess there's some obvious options where there's some really great vendors out there that would do this for you. They can actually design a package or if it's specific pricing information. I guess my world's more around an individual offering this service. But how do they decide how they move forward from that position of we know we need help, we don't quite know?
That's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. I would say that there's a lot of individuals out there that they have a quite good experience in doing access.
Yeah.
They have touched different therapeutic areas. They have touched different sides of the business,
Yeah.
and also at the different levels.
Yeah.
So these people, I have to say, because they understand how it works within a company,
Yeah.
the dynamics. A vendor is good and they are very smart. They do it fast and beautifully and all that. But they are vendors. So there are certain
Yeah.
things that they don't, the dynamics, how things evolve, the different departments, they don't have. If they haven't worked in a company, they don't have.
Yeah.
And these people that have been and now are freelancers and
Yep.
they know all these things that are critical
Yeah.
to understand how things evolve and when they should happen
Mhm.
and what to think. I don't say that there is no need to ask a vendor for certain things,
Yeah.
for certain
Of
activities.
course. Yeah. Yeah.
There is a need because they have as well very good resources and that they do very good work. But when you are trying to explain what's coming, what is the access and what is needed to look at the product, to understand what to do the gap analysis and understand what is needed,
Yeah.
I think it's better someone that has expertise in pharma
Okay.
to provide that information that they need.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And just thinking about the access, early access, if it hasn't been addressed correctly, it hasn't been addressed early enough. What happens when it doesn't go right? What happens when access has been left too late? What are the consequences that, these guys need to consider?
The product is not launched.
Yeah. Okay. It's literally as straightforward as that, isn't it?
We can receive, yes, for example.
You have an example?
Well, yes, I have. I'm not going to say who is it, but recently someone, a company tried to go through GBA to get the drug approved and didn't get through. So it was not successful.
So the GBA, I mean, obviously every country has their own process and regulations, but what was it specifically about? What is it specifically about the GBA that, I mean, I know you appreciate you can't tell me the details, but in terms of that not being met, was there something particular?
Yes. So, for example, the population, they want to have the all population.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was very large. So if the product is to be used in all the population that meet the criteria, like the label has been approved, because when we go for GBA, they look at the label that has been approved. So a huge proportion of the population would fit in terms of budget. You can imagine everyone could use that product.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the impact on the budget will be
from
huge.
a commercial point of view. That's great. It's okay. Yeah.
Yes. So I think it's also important to understand who are we targeting, like the target, and sometimes let's put it need to be reasonable.
Yeah. Okay. Understand. Okay. Good. Thank you for that. So in terms of you, Ana, and because we've known each other a number of months. Last time we spoke, we were talking about you working as an interim consultant, which you did for a bit, and now you're in permanent employment again. So, in terms of your the view of next steps, how do you see your career playing out? With you've got this, as I said, this wonderful experience, which for me, when you were an interim, fantastic, because I could sort of almost plug and play, thinking where you could fit in. But how do you see your career will play out from here in terms of some of the goals you have within market access or personally, but I guess particularly with access and where you're going from here?
Well, I see myself as a market access expert. So
Yeah.
not, and when I say market access, it's HOR, because everything for me is together.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Can you do together? Sorry to interrupt, but because this is what I get asked a lot for. I want a head of market access, but they must be, ideally can do health economics. And I say, oh, look, it's never really the same thing. You get the unicorn. So are you a unicorn?
Yeah.
Is that what you're
I
saying?
think you have to be a head of market access. You have to know HOR. You have to know to ask the right questions to understand what is needed.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done it, you can be a head of market access, but you are lacking the part of the science, the projects, how to collect data. So more the scientific side.
Okay. So you have that scientific side. So
Yes.
But you have a commercial head as well. So does that give you added credibility that you've done it?
Well, yeah. So also the pricing. That's why for me, and apologies for those that do not agree, I believe that access should be like one pillar where access includes the data, includes the access, includes the pricing, because all are together. When we have to, it's intertwined. So we cannot live with each other.
So they will have, so in your opinion, because it goes back and forth every few years, we go, right, we separate it. HOR over here, that's going to sit with medical. Access over here, that's it's going to keep them separate.
Yes.
We'll talk, okay, but from your point of view, no, that doesn't work. You need to have this joined up holistic view. No, well, that's what we want. I mean, I've never done it, but I see that, because the closer you're working together, the better it is generally.
Yes. I also understand why companies separate them.
Yeah, okay.
Their compliance and there's other reasons. I understand. But from my opinion, my point of view, could be one pillar.
Yeah.
And all is under this pillar.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay, good. Thank you, Ana. We've covered some great topics there. And for me, the purpose of this is to get opinion. I don't just want facts and figures and, it's X, Y, Z. I want to know what you actually think. So the fact you might think that someone else doesn't is great. That's what it's all about. Is there anything else you'd like to say about market access, about, the early stage, or missing the boat on that you think is important for the people potentially listening to this? If there's not, that's fine.
The only thing maybe I just want to add is like access. You have to see that is like the product journey. Starts when the product journey starts and ends when the product ends. So after launch, we also have to think about what is happening to our product, what is being published. Now there's a lot of studies going on, real world evidence studies coming as well, very important. So we also need to be aware and to understand the impact of those results. Post-launch. What could be the impact to our product, and what should we do in access in order to keep the product there at the same price, but at the same time maybe increase the size of the population that can use. So there are things that can also be done post-launch. So it really goes across. Access goes across the life.
Once you've done it, don't just leave it there. It's out there. It's not reinventing it, but if it's got a good profile, the product, then there's actually future indications and future population groups that it could be relevant for. So it's really important to have that sort of longer term view beyond we've launched it and now we go back to something else that's coming through.
Yes, the activities will be less, of course, because we need to. It's more to observe and to understand what's happening and then act if needed. It's different from launch activities or pre-launch activities that we have to be more active, and there is really things.
I think also that can actually be a challenge for my side of things, thinking about some of the roles I've worked on, that sometimes the post-launch roles, if that's the focus of the market, or can be less interesting,
Yes.
dare I say. It's quite difficult. People generally want the sexy, exciting, it's coming through. We don't quite know what it's going to be yet. So I think you've got to be very clever about how you integrate that in someone doing, sort of post-launch role, because, it's a lot of it's already known, but, one for another point, maybe.
Yes, yeah. The exciting one is the launch.
Yeah,
I think that is the most exciting, because it's when we see all work that we have been done and developing and delivering.
Yeah.
Now, getting more tangible. The product is there. The patient can use it.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. We'll leave it there, Ana. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your views and taking the time out to speak to me. So we'll stay in touch on this. If people have got comments, obviously they can comment when the videos comes out. But for now, Ana, thank you for your time. We shall meet up, I think, at the EPA we mentioned in a couple of months' time. It was in Amsterdam last year. I don't know where it is this year. But,
it's in Amsterdam.
Great. So I'll see you there. But thank you again. Appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you very much as well. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to BioPharma Unscripted with Marcus Metcalf. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a review. Connect with us on LinkedIn to join the discussion and suggest future guests. Until next time, this is Marcus Metcalf, bringing you the voices transforming biotech and pharma today.